So, tier list, patch day. I think this is actually pretty accurate. While I'm still trying to figure out what builds are up there, it's kind of apparent what gods are still performing or, you know, didn't really get buffed, or the new god, you know, the new gods. So we're doing a tier list and place them all. Smite source has a new tier list function. This will all be public. Like, you'll be able to do this yourself and have your own tier list, and people will be able to see it pretty soon. But for now, you'll just see mine on the website while we get that figured out. So what's the patch that this is alpha to tier list? So, gods are all at the bottom. You can do item tier list as well, which, you know, we'll get in. We'll do content around that eventually. It's already color coded. You can delete tiers if you need to, if like you're doing a smaller tier list, whatever it may be. So Amma, to me, I think is going to be a top tier god. I think as a support, as a solo, and then as a jungle. Probably my guess is more tailored towards solo support, with jungle being like the third option. But just the stat scaling from the 1 plus conch is giving your whole team 2 items. So your team will literally have an item advantage by having this god on your team. And then if you pair Ares with it, you're talking about having 3 items on people. It's just a little ridiculous. When I say that, I mean the base stats you're giving from Amma 1 is as much as an item. Then the base stats from Conch Aura are an item. And then Ares also has Aura of Enter Strength. So that would be a 3rd item. So that's just if you're not understanding. I would put Honor in B tier. For me, this is like must pick ban every game. This is going to be your top picks that are usually getting through. These are going to be your average gods. These are going to be your below average that may be situational. These are going to be your bad gods, and these are going to be your do not play gods. That's kind of how I'm looking at it for the tier list. Yeah, and you can also make your own new tiers if you needed to. You can like label them yourselves if you wanted. So I just don't think that's necessary. I think Anubis is borderline between DNF. Anubis is not a lifesteal god in Smite 2 because lifesteal items are bad. So you're going to go Anubis and play Anubis around the fact that you're a mage. You're a bursty damage mage. Very, very simple. Ares, I still think is really good. He's interacting weird, but his cripple on his 1 actually ends up being a solid kind of cancel out what a lot of these gods are playing around. Like, you can kind of stop gods like Bacchus or Fenrir from really being as active, but it's still Ares. Your ult is still beadsable. There's AoE beads item in the game. People can build beads. Tons of CC immune ultis. So it makes Ares ult a little bit weaker. Plus the fact that blink is such a short distance. It's a hard engage sometimes for Ares. But they did make the actual, like, once you are pulling somebody in, Ares feels really, really good. The movement speed running away from after you ult somebody feels really good. Athena, I'd put Athena in between B and C. I'm in between because of 2 things. The taunt is on an 18-second cooldown, which feels horrendous. But the ultimate, giving your teammate a shield, pretty much guarantees you can kind of turn the fight as long as you're ulting the right person. I feel like I'd rather have an Ares than an Athena. So Athena's going to be slightly below average, maybe more towards the situational. There's a bunch of supports banned, or you're playing around a setup, like you want to play around a Kukulkan or whatever it may be. Bacchus got nerfed, but I think Bacchus is still probably like the #1 pick. I believe Bacchus is still super overtuned. He's not one-shotting you with damage, but he's still doing a lot of damage and very tanky, and has probably the best support kit in the game right now. Bellona got quality of life changes, but Bellona's still pretty bad. Solo lane-ish. Every other lane, no. I wouldn't put her in complete trash tier, but she's down there. CERN, I'd say, is in the more average tier. He plays really well as a burst mage. He plays kind of well as an AA hunter. When I say burst mage, I mean like ability, slam, ult 2, do all your damage. Chalk, I'd put more in the average tier. It's a fine god, but you pretty much ult and that's it. I like him more as a jungler and a damage dealer, but then he's still in the lower tier for jungles. Fenrir, I think, is pretty good. I think Fenrir as a jungle, probably the best, then support, and then solo. And it's because of your beads burning capability. CERN did get his cripple back, which makes me, we'll see how it plays out. I just think because of the other mages and ADCs, he just doesn't match up. That's just where I'm at right now. Fenrir beads burning is strong. His kit is really good. As a support, he scales off of his 1 and his his 1 and his ult scale off defense. So you'll be able to do more damage as you build tanky. As a jungler, there's options now. I found out that your 3 procs in hands. So if you go Kins and Braggies, those are 2 in hands. Every time you auto, you would do extra damage. Your 3 will proc that, and actually it's really hard. So there's potential for that build to come in. There's hybrid builds coming in off of the tank items being buffed. And then there's just the fact that he's a beads burner, engager, jungler, which is always valuable when there are not a lot of god options. Hades, I think Hades sucks. I don't think Hades can play mid very well. His clear isn't great, and his pressure isn't really great as a damage dealer. As a support, he doesn't have the lockdown and stuff that I believe he needs. And then as a solo is where you'd think he'd end up being, but he doesn't lane control. And lane control and pressure is key for the lane because that allows you to open up the side gold camp, which is worth like 200 gold every time it's up, plus controlling the horn in the solo lane. So I put Hades super low tier. I think Akate is never getting banned, but is the best mage in the game. Not by a lot, just by a hair or two. But her team fight is nuts. She has mass AoE damage. Her ult, is crazy. Her whole kit is insane. So I'm putting Akate up there. Jingwei is still very good as a hunter. Probably just the more consistent hunter because of her safety. She did get nerfed though, which is good. Kukulkan, C tier in a sense that I'd only play him if the other mids aren't available. Like if Akate and Neith aren't available, I'd probably play Kukulkan then just to have a mage. But he's not that safe even with his dash edition, and he doesn't have the same presence he does in Smite 1 where like your ult is going to one-shot somebody. Loki, I still think Loki's really good as a jungler, counterable by a lot of stuff, just a lot of abilities that go through stealth, and really grouping makes it very hard to play around a Loki, or for a Loki to play around a team fight. Solid god though, good AoE, borderline A, just not the best. Probably better the lower ranked you are. I'm judging a lot of this off of like elite queue level, which is a new elite queue, like higher level players, but Loki would run lower level lobbies because of the re-stealth after you get a kill. Mordred, he got buffed today, but I don't know how much. I need to test him a little bit. If he's being more consistent, he could be a solo or a jungler. The Ant build felt really good pre-patch, but that's a build that requires a lot of farm. He hits hard, especially I 1v1'd like early game of Mordred as Ama, and it was a Mordred jungle. I 1v1 him multiple times, and he actually kind of clapped my cheeks. So there's a good chance we end up moving up Mordred as I play him a little bit more. Neith, second best mid by a hair. Better early mid than Akate, but Akate is a better late than Neith in my opinion. Still the same tier, still very, very valuable. Nuwa is cracked. I think mage Nuwa is cracked. You need to be building correctly when you play these mages though. A lot of people, my last, was it Nuwa on my team? Yeah, my last Nuwa had Transcendence in an elite queue. I don't know what's going on. Odin is very good because it forces people to go shell, which a lot of people will build shell, but still making them build into that active allows your team to open up for a beads burner. So if you pair Odin with like Fenrir's and Ares, then you are able to CC more because they aren't going to go beads. What didn't you like about the 5.3? I don't know what that means. Soul is still very, very good. Crit hunters are still going to be crit hunters, and Soul's still going to have the sustain, going to have the scaling off her passive. Yes, her passive got a little nerfed, and crit got a little nerfed, but crit is that overtuned that it's still very, very strong. Susano got slightly nerfed, but it doesn't matter. He's still the better jungler. I'd put him... I'd argue... Ooh, what the heck? I'd argue that I'd put him in S tier, but I personally haven't played him enough. I played with him and against him. So I'm in between. I'll leave him in S tier for now. Thanatos, I think, is still very weak. His one only hits hard if you crazy snowball, and that'd be like XP wise. And XP snowballing is very difficult right now in Smite 2. You can gold snowball, be up 10k gold, and only be up a level. So I'm probably going to leave Thanatos down in here. His execute in a team fight sense, if you have really good teammates, is going to be very valuable no matter what. The movement builds and just going damage is how you'll play him. However, I feel like his one needs to do a little bit more damage or just scale differently, or they need to fix the XP scaling. So if you are having a good early game, you're actually ahead on levels. The Morrigan, I think, is still very good. Probably your next level mid laner after these three. You'd have to be very good with your swaps. Same stuff as in Smite 1. She does feel more fluid in Smite 2 than Smite 1. It's way easier to 2-1 combo and everything else. Ymir, I think, is very good because he's a spam beat. He's going to make people beads on cooldown. And the wall presence against the gods in the game is nuts. So, like, think about it. Just off the two S tier gods, Ymir's wall can completely stop them from playing the game. Then you get a little bit deeper. It can stop Akate. It can't stop Neith. I think she backflip over it. Stop Nuwa. It can stop Soul unless she goes into her 3. So if you're using your 1 right, it's still better. You can stop Ares. You can stop Cern. You can stop Loki. Mordred if he's not on his ult. The Morrigan. You just do very well against the gods that they put in the game overall. And then Zeus. Dude, I think Zeus is fine if you can get to full build. But his other 25 minutes of the game are just bad. He has no wave clear. And everyone's like, oh, they removed the shield. He can't clear, blah, blah, blah. The shield needed to go because it made team fighting stupid. You just throw your 1 into the center of a team fight and then, or sorry, your 2, the shield into it, and then 1 off of it. And it didn't take any skill. I like the way the 2 works. They just need to find a way to let Zeus clear, or they need to find some way to make him oppressive in terms of fighting in the lane early with like a mage build, which, like you said, if he's full build, he hits hard, but until then, I feel like he doesn't. He needs a lead. You're scared for me to click tier list create? Hopefully it's not buggy. So yeah, this is my tier list. This is where I'm at right now in Smite 2. And I don't think you're like trolling by picking the D tier gods. If they're your main gods and you're more comfortable in them, you'll probably do better than if you pick a B tier god you don't know how to play. Simple. There you go. It worked. You didn't break it. He didn't break it. Let's go.